Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Beer Time with BigBird. Today's Friday, and that means we're back in the Salt of the Street studio to crack open and enjoy a nice, cold Pacific Northwest local beer. Today, we are getting back into another Silver City beer. I believe it's a beer we talked about on last week's episode. So if you have not checked that out yet, go ahead and check that out for yourself. I believe we did the Mighty Oak, a special limited edition beer from Silver City last week. But today we're going to be doing something that was on that seasonals list. And surprisingly enough, I found it randomly the other day and I was like, I got to scoop this up. So we're going to be diving into the Mystic Mojo IPA today. So I'm going to go ahead, go grab me the beer. You go grab yourself a beer. We'll meet right back here in about, 4 or 5 seconds because editing is a thing. And we'll crack open a beer together and we'll see what you think about it. And welcome everybody once again back to Silver City's website. Today we've got the Mystic Mojo India Pale Ale. Hazy IPA meets classic Northwest hops. This dynamic hazy IPA utilizes Citra and Columbus hops that impart a myriad of piney, dank, and citrus fruit hop aromas and flavors that floats along a malt bill layered with oat and wheat. At 7% ABV, Mystic Mojo has all the right moves to entrance your hop senses and keep you warm in the cooler weather months. So we've got Citra hops, Columbus hops, Trident hops, Simcoe hops, that's where the dankiness comes from, malt, so we've got a Northwest Pale Malt with just oats and flaked wheat, so that'll be interesting. Relatively low IBA of 50 and 7% alcohol by volume. Available in 12-ounce cans. That's what we got today. Half-barrel keg, 6-barrel keg, and hey, let's look at some more pictures. Maybe we don't want to change pictures. Okay, that's just the only picture. Okay. We got it. We got Mystic Mojo happening. It's going on. It's interesting because, like I said before, I was very surprised to find this. This is supposed to be kind of a winter-fall seasonal, and here it is, end of April. Saw it, grabbed it, without any further delay. Let's go find out how this thing tastes. All right, so I am very interested in this, particularly because of the oat and the wheat. It's not that typical, I guess, in an IPA, although if it's a hazy IPA, that would do it. Ooh, we still love that sound, don't we? We still love this sound. So I'm going to go ahead. Okay, I am sorry about that loud little smash you might have heard there. Glass sometimes gets in the way with the low mic, and, we're professionals over here. So let's go ahead. I'm really curious. I have a feeling this is going to be a pretty light-looking beer with just the Northwest Pale Malt and the oats and the wheat. The oats and wheat aren't going to give you any color, so this should be a pretty light one. It's going to be dependent on how light that Northwest Pale Malt is. And, yeah, it's light. It's very light, which is not necessarily a bad deal. It's not at all. Unless you don't like light beers and you only like dark beers. Wow, we are batting 1,000 today. We're smashing glasses into microphones. I got a couple drops of beer on my keyboard. And look at the size of that head. Good Lord, thank goodness it's Friday. Because I don't care. I hope you guys chastise me wildly in the comments. Because this is just sad. I mean, look at that. That's 2 fingers. That's a 2-finger foam head right there. User error. Has nothing to do with the beer. Although, sometimes, when you get some of those more weedy and oaty beers, some of those residual starches can still be hanging around. That can give you a much thicker head than you normally have. So we're just going to kind of let this thing sit here for a second. And I'm just going to vamp for another second or two until I feel like it's ready enough to drink. And I think that time is now. We got enough head on here that we're going to come away with a little foamy mustache. But hey, cheers, everybody. Actually, wait a minute. Let's smell it beforehand. Let's just do that. Oh, okay. So no no hard punch of hops right off the bat. I mean, they're all there. It's all floral. But this is very fruity, so it's kind of a smooth hops. It's not doesn't sting you at all like some of the real hoppy beers can. I'm not really getting any of the dankness coming through. Like really, this just smells like a nice, I don't know, kind of lemony. That'd be the Citra hops coming in. They got a lot of citrus odors that come off of that thing. Oh, okay. I'm really excited. We're going to add the rest of this here now that the head's kind of fallen down a little bit. Boom. And then we're going to go ahead and dive into it. See how hazy that bad boy is. Here, cheers. We'll try this again. Yep. Yeah, no, that's good. That's real good. Real subtle as you take your first drink. You're not getting that hardcore kick from the hops in some of these IPAs. Some of them tend to have that real bitter just punch right in the back of the mouth like that. You feel it like in the pits of your jaw. This does not have that. I mean, I'm not thinking about drinking an IPA in the cold weather when if it's snowy outside, icy and all that. I like a nice, warm, comforting beer. I think when we first kicked this show off, we were talking about winter warmers and stuff like that. Love those beers. Love a nice, warm, dark beer in the wintertime. This would actually work pretty well, I think, though, in the winter. Because even though it's an IPA, and the more you drink it, you do get that bitterness that slowly builds up in the back of the mouth and the back of the throat like that. But it's not overly so. I mean, this thing is just, it's really, really, really fruity. Like, yeah, real citrus fruits, but warm and comforting. Usually I think citrus, I think summertime, I think springtime. Like, you know, it's gorgeous outside right now. I mean, it's beautiful. We're finally, hopefully, going to be keeping some halfway decent weather around up here in the Pacific Northwest. But, I mean, this is just, it works on so many levels. You get this kind of rich creaminess that it must be coming from that oats, and then obviously the wheat's in there. There's no real heavy wheat flavor. So I'm wondering, when it came to the brew process and building the recipe, how much of it they really add in here and why. You know, I initially think maybe to make it the hazy IPA, you know, you throw some wheat in there and that's going to add all sorts of starches and stuff like that. You know, keep it nice and hazy if that's what you're going after. But you don't get a whole lot of wheat on the tongue. So if you're not like a fan of wheat beers and Hefeweizens and things like that, don't be afraid of the wheat in this beer. Man, I just can't stop. As soon as you hit it right on the beginning, it's nice and fruity. You get like almost like apples and oranges. That's kind of what it tastes like. I mean, over top of like the beer. But, you know, if beers have flavors like citrus, that's what I'm getting. I'm getting citrus and apple. Kind of it feels like a fall beer. It really does. And I like to talk a little bit of shit lately about IPAs, especially where we live up here in the Pacific Northwest, because they are everywhere. I mean, I was looking at a brewery today, another local brewery, which we haven't done any beers on the show yet, but like the first 4 beers on their tap list were all IPAs. I mean, versions of them, but you know, if you're somebody that likes a dark beer, or if you're a lager type of person, or you just want something that's real malty, sometimes you're gonna miss out around here because it's just all IPAs all the time. And don't get me wrong, love me an IPA. Love this Mystic Mojo IPA. Shout out Silver City. You guys still rule. But, you know, I also like all sorts of other beers. The being bombarded with IPA after IPA after IPA, when most of the places just kind of generally tweak their hop profile a little bit and just play with the amount of hops that go in there and all that. I mean, don't sleep on that base malt, man. Just if you're gonna do an IPA, in my mind, mind you, you got to watch costs because IPA brewing can be very expensive because hops are very expensive. That's usually the most expensive part of the brewing recipe, other than the yeast. Yeast is very expensive, especially by volume, but you don't need that much. So, but you need a lot of hops if you're making an IPA. Like 2 to 4 times the normal amount of hops you'd find in, say, like an amber beer, or like even like a hoppy Pilsner doesn't have nearly as many hops in it as an IPA does. And so I guess I just don't understand why all the IPAs. I mean, do you have to offer IPAs? And if you're a local brewery, do you have to make IPAs to satisfy the customers? I would be really curious. I did hear a story once, actually, about a local brewery that's not around technically anymore. It's kind of a sad deal. I think it was the COVID that kind of did them in, but it was a place called Sound Brewing here, and it's in a town called Paulsbo. You could Google it, and excuse me, it's a problem with doing a beer show. You can Google it, find out where it's at and where it was, but they, when they first started kind of gaining prominence, their big deal was they made Belgian-based beers. It was all Belgian beers. And I, as a lover of the Belgian beer, love that fact. And they were so hesitant to put out an IPA because it's not a Belgian beer style that you're going to find. So they would be definitely breaking a few brewing laws, if you will, and, crossing that Rubicon over into kind of like I guess you call them the hybrid beers at that point. But they made fantastic Belgian beers, and they finally acquiesced at some point. And I'm gonna flake on the name because it was kind of a witty name. It was like, finally, here's your fucking IPA, people. And it was fantastic. It was one of the best IPAs I ever had. Mostly, I think, because they used base Belgian malts when they made that beer. So you still had that really nice kind of, I don't know the right word for it, but it's almost kind of a soury deal when you're talking about Belgian malts. And it had that, plus all the hops you could ever want. And it was really, really fantastic. And it's sad that they're no longer around, but they are semi-around in another fashion with this new brewery that will hit up very, very soon. They just recently opened the facility and their tap room, and it is packed all the time now. But it's called Echoes Brewing. They are also in Paulsbo, Washington. I think they're located in the same production facility that Sound Brewing had at the time. But one of these days here, real quick, maybe even this Sunday, depending on what's going on, we're going to go into Echoes and we're going to bring back some Echoes beer. We're going to have a good time. Hopefully we talk to some of the people at the brewery now that COVID started finally coming back, and we're dialing back on the mask things and stuff like that. A lot more places are open, and they're much more friendly to be around. You don't have to worry about whether you're masking up and down and doing the whole 9 yards. And so I think it's time we crack into some of those breweries and go try to, wrangle some of those brewers and some of the people that own these places and talk to them about their experiences and all that good stuff. So that's something to look forward to. The rest of this beer is something to look forward to. And the rest of the weekend is something to look forward to, especially because breaking news tomorrow, Saturday, noon time Pacific, right here on the Salt of the Streets YouTube channel. Me and my partner Donovan are going to be going live with episode 126. It's going to be an epic live endeavor, just like it always is. It's probably going to go for anywhere between 4 to 6 hours. You never really know with us. We got a great show coming up. Lots of fantastic kind of contemporary news topics, things that are going on in the world right now. We got a whole hell of a show planned. It's going to be fantastic. So if you're into any kind of pop culture talk, news talk, politics, any of that stuff, right here tomorrow, noon, that's the place where you want to be at the time you want to be there. But anyways, we are going to go ahead and polish this bad boy off. Cheers, everybody. I hope you're enjoying a nice cold brew right now, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Hopefully, I'll see you guys tomorrow on the Salt the Streets podcast, episode 126. Till then, peace out. Cheers.
Welcome to the salt of the streets, coming at you every